I rise in support of the motion of thanks to the President for his address and the measures in the addenda announced by the various ministries to take Singapore forward in an increasingly uncertain and turbulent world with a changing world order. I'm heartened by how our people and the government have been working hand in hand to overcome the numerous waves of challenges pounding our shores. They emanate from continents far from our island, economic upheavals, armed conflicts, technology changes, yet they have significant impact on our everyday lives. On the one hand, I'm confident of our ability to catch some of these waves to survive and thrive. On the other hand, let us never forget the need to protect the vulnerable amongst us and prevent these powerful waves from sweeping them under. I'm cognizant of the immense responsibility that my residents and fellow Singaporeans have entrusted me with. I applaud the great progress that we have made so far together to address some of the issues faced by our vulnerable groups. But our work is far from done, and that is why I continue to champion change that will benefit Singaporeans and my residents and keep our country going in this new reality. MPs play an important role to help the government to continue to review the effectiveness of our policies on the ground. Where necessary, we must be willing to recalibrate and make improvements to narrow the gaps and plug any loophole. Let us never forget that spirit of sensible policy making and pragmatic government administration that has been a hallmark of Singapore's success. Sometimes the solutions can be deceptively simple, and I would like to call upon us all, the people, private and public sectors, to be daring to raise practical and smart solutions, and our policy makers to listen to good ideas from our people. This is how we stay united as a nation, by caring and looking out for one another. It is worth reminding ourselves that we are only as strong as our weakest link, and the tides of change must not leave anyone behind. I am assured and heartened by the commitments made by the Ministry of Social and Family Development in its addendum to the President's address. I support the suite of enhanced and new measures to help our families cope during this challenging period. I support the enhanced employment support and opportunities for lifelong education for lower-income families and persons with disabilities. Reviews and updates of ComCare assistance and payouts and family services are timely. I welcome the introduction of a new Domestic Violence Act and the commencement of the Mental Capacity Act review, just to name a few. Our social and healthcare workers play an essential and critical role in ensuring that appropriate help and care is provided in a timely manner. This was best demonstrated during the COVID-19 pandemic, but now that we have moved on from that crisis, it does not mean that we forget their roles and contributions. In fact, I would like to urge the government to consider dedicating more resources to our social care sector in view of the needs arising from our rapidly aging population as our population pyramid starts to invert amid shrinking family sizes and changing social norms. Our social care workers are professionals and they must be treated as such. They need to be equipped with more support and resources in order to achieve better outcomes for their clients. Much research worldwide over the last 2 decades have resulted in new findings in this field, and we can tap on these to provide constant professional upgrading so that they can be even more effective. In addition, we should elevate and accord better recognition of and compensation for their work. Due to the nature of their jobs, burnout and attrition rates are high. Their hard work is hard work. We have to do more to better retain our existing talent pool of social workers while attracting new blood to boost our ability to care for our people. Foreign workers do help to fill many of the gaps, but let's not end up as a country that relies too heavily on others to take care of our very own. Singapore is rapidly aging. Our silver tide is here. We must accelerate efforts to strengthen community-based elder care, expanding active aging centres, daycare facilities, and home-based support services. These not only enable our seniors to age in place with dignity and autonomy, but also reduce pressure on families. Caregiving, often performed by middle-aged adults juggling work and family, must also be better supported. Caregivers want to be able to care for their families, but they also have their own dreams and aspirations. All too often, I have met residents who have had to sacrifice their careers to look after their loved ones. Indeed, they have chosen to do so out of love, and we need to celebrate that and provide them with better support. The toll that they experience goes beyond the physical, and it is quite common that their mental well-being is also at risk. I urge the government to consider enhanced caregiver leave, more accessible respite services, and financial assistance tailored to caregiver households. Our seniors are not a burden. They are a blessing. Let us honor their contributions not just in words, but through concrete policies that uphold their well-being, as well as that of their loved ones. We have to double down on our efforts to support families holistically so that they can remain strong and resilient in the face of change. For families under duress, our social care workers need to be empowered to coordinate with partners such as mental and physical health care professionals, financial counselors, schools, elder care centres, and so on. Sir, poverty in Singapore may be less visible, but we still have families struggling even for basic provisions, including food. Families living in rental flats, often headed by single parents or elderly caregivers, face daily struggles. For children in these households, we must do more to ensure their well-being and that they can access healthcare, nutritious food, and be able to focus on their education. We must intervene early and effectively. Programs like Kids Start are commendable, and we need to go further in scaling them up with holistic support for families, not just for children, but also for parents. Empower them with good parenting skills, stable employment, access to mentoring, and even overcoming addictions such as to vaping, alcohol, and even drugs. Sir, we have watched with horror how divisive many countries overseas have become, splintering along racial and religious lines, and increasingly along the lines of immigration and social economic backgrounds. There are heightened tensions between established resident communities and new arrivals, and distrust between the rich and the poor, manifesting in rallies, riots, and violence. Almost daily, we see alarming images of looting, burning vehicles and buildings, and people attacking each other on TV and social media. Social harmony did not happen by chance. It is the result of careful stewardship, addressing root causes of problems as soon as they surface, building mutual respect, and reaching the national consensus to agree to engage in difficult conversations, even over sensitive topics. Yet in today's digital age, we face new threats from misinformation, polarization, and imported ideologies that can erode trust and amplify division. How can we build unity in diversity? Interfaith platforms like the IRCCs must be re-energized for a new generation. Many of our youth that I have met have good questions and think about such issues very seriously. Let us support engagements for deeper, ongoing conversations about faith, tradition, and coexistence, especially among our youth. Civic education in schools should place greater emphasis on empathetic understanding of different faiths and worldviews. We must move beyond mere tolerance to deepen our mutual understanding, appreciation, and respect. Strong communities are not built by governments alone. They exist when neighbors look out for one another, when residents take ownership of shared spaces, and when there is deep trust among people in our institutions and in our leadership. We must support faith and community leaders who work quietly to build bridges. Our bridge builders must be seen, supported, and safeguarded against threats. Our community development councils, social service officers, active aging centers, and grassroots organizations must continue to be strongly supported to work closely with ground-up groups and volunteers. Policies must enable not only professional help, but also kampong-style initiatives and mutual aid. One example where multiple stakeholders came together to try to solve a long-running problem is the Skyville at Dawson Sky Gardens. For years, residents have been putting up with the disamenities of noisy and inconsiderate visitors who litter, smoke, urinate, and cause disturbances even in the wee hours. Volunteers, despite feeling burnout, continue with patrols, even as we continue to engage with HDB, the Town Council, Residents Network, the National Environment Agency, the police, and other government agencies. Unfortunately, the disamenities continued, and we sought to present alternative solutions which have been proven effective in other sky gardens, such as the Pinnacle at Duxton. When problems remain unsolved and proposals are not accepted, it is not surprising for my residents to feel disappointed. You may recall that in 2022, I moved an adjournment motion in this very House to explore solutions on how we can better manage our common spaces in housing estates. I will not hesitate to continue to speak up for my residents if I feel that more can be done. Securing Singapore's future lies not in grand slogans, but as our President put it, in everyday deeds and action, like little acts of kindness, helping an elderly neighbor with groceries, guiding a child in need, lending a hand in crisis. These are the encounters that strengthen our social compact and build a we-first society. In closing, allow me to reiterate our first principles to build a united and resilient Singapore. We have to be inclusive and caring, respectful of differences in diversity, and united in core values. Every child who falls through the cracks, every elderly person who dies alone, every caregiver who burns out is a reminder of work yet to be done. Similarly, every neighbor who helps another, every volunteer who steps forward, every employer who provides a second chance is a sign of the better Singapore that we are building together. Sir, in Mandarin. 议长先生，保证新加坡的未来不在于宏大的口号，正如我们总统所说的，在于每天的点滴行动，如一些小小的善举，帮助年长的邻居购买生活用品，引导需要帮助的孩子，在危机时伸出援手。正是这些加强了我们的社会契约的互动，构建了一个我们优先的社会。最后，请允许我重申我们的首要原则：为了建设一个团结、富有韧性的新加坡，我们必须包容、互助、尊重差异，并在核心价值观上团结一致。每一个被遗漏的孩子，每一个孤独离世的老人，每一个精疲力尽的护理人员，都提醒着我们还有很长的路要走。同样，每一个帮助他人的邻居，每一个挺身而出的志愿者，每一个提供第二次机会的雇主，都象征着我们正在共同建设一个更美好的新加坡。谢谢 ，Thank you。